Alright, here we go with part 2 of introducing Aurelia, well, presenting my rebuild of Aurelia, some of the ideas I'm having, some of the questions I'm coming up with as what do I want to do with the deck, as I said in part 1. So I was thinking of an enchantment theme, but now I'm leaning more towards a token theme. Her previous build was just a disjointed pile of fun red cards, white cards, artifacts, lands that it stopped working. So like Karavik, if you watch my Karavik video, you can see that Karavik is just a disjointed pile of cards. There's no real obvious theme. The theme is cast Karavik as quickly as possible and keep him in play so I can use his triggered ability to have fun with my opponent's cast spells. Really doesn't have that luxury. Being an attacker, something that wants combat, triggers an additional combat phase. To my mind, she requires more support. She requires some themes. Let's say you went angels, that would work. Goblins, that would work. Soldiers. But if you just have different disjointed cards that don't have a lot of synergy with each other, then it'll work in some environments until it doesn't. Until the environment changes and the people you're playing with, they start having coherent themes. They start improving their decks, and yours gets left behind. So let's keep going. So we're on to the enchantments, definitely. Now with the token theme and with Angel's Trumpet, so creatures have to attack every turn. They get vigilance. If they do not attack, they get tapped at the end of your turn, and you take 1 point of damage for each creature tapped. Let me show you that for people that are unfamiliar with the Angel's Trumpet, just to remind you. So creatures gain vigilance. At the end of each player's turn, tap all untapped creatures that didn't attack, and you take a point of damage for each creature tapped this way. So what I need is there will be creatures that I won't want to tap. Not that I won't want to tap. I won't want to send into combat sometimes. This gives me a way of tapping them, so they can't attack. Because if I tap them before the combat phase, they're no longer eligible to be an attacker. Plus, the creatures have vigilance. So if I attack, let's say I have 10 tokens. Attack with 10 tokens, 6 of them survive. They've got vigilance. So at the end of the turn of the player who will finish before my next turn, the player immediately preceding me in the turn order, I'll tap those creatures, do 6 points of damage with the card negotiations, and they'll untap, and I can attack and keep going with it. This is a card that does nothing on its own. I really need to buff up the token theme in order to make use of it. So that's why this early look at Aurelia is not going to be the final build. I really need to think about a lot of the choices that I've been making. Land tax. So beginning my upkeep, if somebody controls more lands than I do, I can go find 3 basic lands, up to 3 basic lands, show them to everybody, put them in my hand, and then shuffle. It's a good card. It's a really good card if it comes down early and you can stay 1 land behind. At some point, though, you will pull ahead if you're hitting all your land drops because you keep finding land. And other players on some of their turns will not hit land. So at some point you pull ahead, and if you don't have a way of sacrificing lands for value, then it will become a dead card after a certain amount of time. But in the early game, fantastic. Mark of Asylum. This is why I'm probably going to take out Spite-Mare. No matter what, for the token theme, I intend to leave this in, prevent all non-combat damage to creatures I control. So if I pump off a blasphemous act, somebody, like my friend, he started to fall in love with chain reaction. Anything like that, and my creatures don't take damage. Now, I could put in more effects that damage the creatures, maybe Jay Ballard, and I can use her Inferno ability, her third ability. Well, Jay Ballard Task Mage, specifically, the legend Jay Ballard Task Mage. Her third ability is 7, discard 2 cards, cast Inferno, 6 damage, everything. If all this does is stops my Blasphemous Act from killing my creature and doesn't really do anything else, then I'll just take it out. So I have to, as I get closer to the final build, I have to carefully consider how many cards I have that will do damage to creatures, how many cards I expect to see that will do, and decide whether or not it's worth it. Martyr's Cause. So I've got tokens. Here's a way of using the token. Sacrifice creature, prevent all damage to creature or player from one source. A friend of mine, he's got a token deck and he uses this and it works really well. So put mine in there. Sphere of Safety. Creatures can't attack me or Planeswalker I control unless the controller plays X, where X is the number of enchantments I control per creature. It costs 5. If I don't have a critical mass of enchantments, if I don't have more than 2 in play, I might as well just play Ghostly Prison, because then it forces the control of the creature to pay 2. And maybe that's all I want. Maybe I don't want this at all. So right now this is on the chopping block as something to cut in order to buff up the token theme, because the enchantments I've got, if I'm not doing the enchantment theme and I'm going tokens, then it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, a downward spiral. So I cut 2 enchantments. Well, I cut Spear of Safety. Okay, I don't have anything that does damage to all the creatures. I cut Mark of Asylum until I'm left with land tax, current negotiations, and angelic renewal. Here we are with the instance. So Beacon of Destruction. I always have liked this card. A lot of fun. Not the most efficient card, but it does get shuffled back in after it does its damage, if it doesn't get countered, or if it doesn't fizzle somehow. So red 3, deal 5 damage to target creature player. Shuffle back into your library. So 5 for 5, instant speed. And it's kind of pretty. I like it. Anyway, let's keep going. Enlightened Tutor. This is in here, so I can go look for an artifact or enchantment card. Typically, that will be the Angel's Trumpet. Why do I really have this in here? Just to find the Angel's Trumpet? Pretty much. Or Perforos. Anyway, I have this in here. I'm sure that I will have enough targets to make it a relevant, valuable inclusion in any build, so it'll stay. Fate Forgotten. Bit mana intensive for the effect, some people think, but 3, exile target artifact, exile. Last night at a game, Eldrazi guy had Quicksilver Amulet out with Eldrazi. So that had to go, and there was a couple turns before we could do something. And I don't know if he has any recursion. So this would have solved the problem. Quicksilver Amulet, bye-bye. For good. Jabari's Influence. This is why I would, I'm not sure if I should keep this in here. So, 2 white, 3, gain control of target non-artifact, non-black creature that attacked me this turn. Put a -1, -0 counter on it. I'm really not convinced that there's going to be enough interesting things attacking me that I would want to use this. I don't have Swords to Plowshares yet for this deck. I want to get one of the newer arts, and I just haven't managed to. It's not that I haven't managed, I just haven't bothered to go get one yet. So when I do bother to go get it, then I'll have Swords to Plowshares in this deck. And this can only be played after combat. Only gets a non-artifact, non-black creature. I might as well cut this and just leave lean on Helm of Possession that much more, which I can find with the Lane Tutor. So I'll probably end up cutting this. Last ditch effort. So I'm going to cast Blasphemous Act, or somebody's going to cast Damnation, Wrath of God, Supreme Verdict, whatever. And I spent all this time, actually, even better. So last night, I was playing Karavik. One of my buddies was playing Eldrazi. I forget the name of the Eldrazi commander. It looks like they were banging on the keyboard to name this guy. Anyway, he's the one that gives Eldrazi, or colorless creatures, double cascade. That schmuck, right? And my other buddy's playing Windgrace. So Eldrazi guy, he's not doing great, but he's starting to pump out some really scary bastards. And Windgrace guy, he's got Field of the Dead. He's just making zombies. He's making zombies like a happy camper. And at one point, he had 16 zombies, and he smashed them into Eldrazi guy. Did a lot of damage, didn't kill him. And meanwhile, for about 3 or 4 turns, I'd been looking at Massacre Worm. And I had a live Goblin Sharpshooter on the board that neither one of them really cared about. Because without my Basilisk Collar to enchant or to equip Goblin Sharpshooter, the 2/2 zombies didn't care about Sharpshooter. The Eldrazi definitely didn't care about Sharpshooter. So I waited a couple of turns, and when they had beaten up each other a little bit, so I cast Massacre Worm. Windgrace looks at his 18, 20 some odd 2/2 zombies and goes, "Oh, okay, this sucks." And I told Eldrazi guy, all those zombies are dying. Those are all triggers for Goblin Sharpshooter. I'm just going to Gatling gun you to death with those death triggers. So if somebody pulls that on me with this token theme, last ditch efforts, okay, in response to the Massacre Worm, I'm going to sacrifice all my little tokens and hit you with them. I would still lose 2 life for every creature dying, but if I do it in response to Massacre Worm before it resolves, then it's possible I can kill them before the Massacre Worm resolves. So if they die, it will remove that ability from the stack. They will cease to exist, and all of their effects will dissipate. So for that reason, I'll keep in last ditch effort. It's a good thing I thought this through. It's a good thing I'm making this video and talking about this. Alright, in that vein, I've also got Massive Raid. So last ditch effort, I sacrifice creatures, Massive Raid. It just does damage to 1 creature or 1 player equal to the number of creatures I control. I'm not sure how good this is going to be. It only hits 1 creature or player, but it might be good. I'll likely force it to be included in the final build just so I can play it and see how it works. Reflect damage. Redirect all damage dealt by any one source to the source's controller. So, Windgrace cast Chain Lightning. Or not Chain Lightning. I just mentioned the card. It's a red card. Chain Reaction. He cast Chain Reaction. Every creature takes damage equal to the number of creatures on the board. I can reflect all that damage back to the controller. So 10 creatures take 10 damage. Plow! Back to you, baby. And settle the wreckage. So all the creatures have to attack. I need to put some way to recur this. I'm definitely going to want it back in my hand. White and red. Red has ways of recurring instants and sorceries. Mostly they're random. I need some way of getting this back, because if Angel's Trumpet says all creatures have to attack, or they get tapped and you take 1 point of damage for each one, my opponents will be attacking, so I can keep settling the wreckage, exiling their attacking creatures, and letting them go find basic lands. Wild Ricochet. I can choose new targets for an instant or sorcery, then copy it, and then choose new targets for that copy. So not only do I get to redirect a spell, I get to copy it and do something with that new spell. I've used this before, haven't been using it lately. Throw it in here and see how it works. Alright, now we're to the Planeswalkers, and then we'll get to the sorceries, and I'll wrap this up and post it. So I don't have Elspeth Tyrell because I want to buy a foil one. Again, this is not the final build. I don't have all the cards. I'm rethinking all these card choices I'm making. Elspeth would definitely be in there. Elspeth Sun's Champion. +1. Put 3 1 soldier creature tokens on the battlefield. Fantastic. Neg 3. Blow up all creatures powerful or greater. Could be good. Neg 7. I get an emblem with creatures I control, get +2/+2 and flying. With tokens. And I'm going to try to set it up so I pump out tokens every turn. So I keep getting creatures. So she's definitely going to pull her weight. Same with Elspeth Tyrell. I forget the exact orders of her abilities offhand, but I'm going to want her. Nahiri the Harbinger. Not sure if I had her in the previous Aurelia build. I never really did anything with her. Quicksilver Amulet taps to use though. So just based on that corner case, perhaps I will put in Nahiri. So 4 loyalty Planeswalker. I can discard a card if I do draw a card. That in and of itself is pretty good. Neg 2, exile target enchantment, tapped artifact, or tapped creature. So this will get rid of enchantments 2, which red has a problem with. Neg 8, search my library for an artifact or creature, put it on the battlefield, shuffle, it gains haste, bounce it back to my hand at the beginning of the end step. Okay, Nahiri is definitely going in. I talked myself into it. Sorceries. Okay, austere command 6, choose 2, blow up all artifacts, blow up all enchantments, kill all the small creatures, kill all the big creatures, pick 2, and keep going. Blasphemous Act. Costs 1 less for each creature in the battlefield. Does 13 damage to each creature, and I hope to God nobody else is playing a reflect damage because I'll get hit as badly as I just talked about. Alright, tokens. So 5. Kicker 6. So for 5 I get 6 1/1 core soldier tokens. If I spend 11, I get 12 of them instead. Either way, it's a pretty good card, and another reason I should put something in here that will recur instants and sorceries. I'm going to have to think about that. Increasing Devotion. 5, I get 5 1/1 white human creatures, not soldiers. Doesn't work with not Captain of Eos, but still. And if I flash it back for 8, no 9, if I flash it back for 9, I get 10 instead. Okay, final sorcery. There we go. Sometimes just a little bit of moisture on these perfect fit sleeves and they stick. I washed my hands before doing this video, and some of the residual moisture is just keeping them together. Anyway, not that any of you want to hear about residual moisture in my hands. So Wheel of Fortune. Yep, it does what it says what it does. The wheel goes around. Everybody throw your hand, get a new 7. I hope you don't like what you got. I hope I like what I got. Alright, so that's Aurelia. The current state of her rebuild. Still missing a lot of cards. I want Eros, God of War. I want a foil Nykthos. I want to get Noblesse of War in foil. A couple other cards that I was looking at are, let's see, Warleader's Helix. Maybe I had that before. I'm not sure if I want it. It's basically a lightning helix that costs 4 and it deals 4 damage and you gain 4 life. So it's not as mana efficient as lightning helix, but it's okay. An Intimidation Bolt. I want to get an Intimidation Bolt. Does 3 damage to a creature. other creatures that player controls cannot attack this turn. So if I hit somebody's creature with an intimidation bolt, when Angel's Trumpet is out, then they cannot attack, and they have to tap all their creatures at the end of their turn and take 1 point of damage for each of those creatures. Okay, so I'm definitely going to get an Intimidation Bolt. And again, I need some way of recurring sorceries in instants. If any of you have any good ideas, keep in mind I've not bothered to look at much beyond Kaladesh. The sets are becoming too fast, too close together. I can't keep up. I gave up on keeping up. In fact, in my next video, I'll talk about something from Kaladesh I just found out about. So I got one, and it's going to go into Edgar. So there it is. Let me get this posted. Let's start a conversation. And let me just keep her on camera because you don't want to look at this gold crap. You want to look at a pretty magic card, right? So talk to me. Let me know what you think of what I'm doing, what ideas you would have. Some good token generators that you didn't see. Some other ones I'm definitely going to get are Lean and Warleader. I want to get one of those in foil. And then the Sun Titan, as I mentioned, the Secret Lair Sun Titan. There is another Hero of Bladehold. I want to get her. So if there's other token generators, especially if they trigger on attack or they're repetitive and they can keep pumping out tokens. Krenko is one, Goblin War Boss is one. I need to figure out how deep I want to go goblins if I put Krenko and the War Boss in, though. But I'm sure there's some I'm missing. I'm sure there's some great token generators I'm missing. But, alright, time to talk about it. In the comments below.